Hey, how's life? I got my hands on the Wanbo X5 Pro projector, and I've got to say, Wanbo did a great job. Okay, so let's get into what I like and didn't like about the Wanbo X5 Pro. First off, the setup is super easy. In the box, you just get the projector, the remote, and a power cable. That's it. The interface is also much snappier. We've reviewed the Mozart 1 Pro from Wanbo before, and there was some serious lag on the interface there. So just scrolling through the menus, through movies, through the keyboard even is much snappier on this one, so we had no issues with that. The X5 Pro does come with quick autofocus, keystone, obstacle avoidance, all of that, so that's great. There's also support for all the streaming platforms, so we didn't see any issues with those either. You do get some quick access buttons on the remote itself to go straight to platforms like, Disney Plus, Netflix, etc. And you can also cast content. So pretty standard, Android, Google TV features here. The Google Voice search is also very good that you can use the remote for. There's a button on it, click it, and you can search, and it's been pretty accurate in our experience. And you can set up different user profiles if you like as well, and you can switch between them. So suppose you want to have a separate one for yourself and another one for your kids, you can do that, and you can easily switch because there's a button on the remote dedicated for user profile switching. Now, the projector itself can be put on a table like I did, but you do get the ability to mount it on a C-stand, for example, or on the ceiling. But all of that equipment that you need, like the stand or the ceiling mount, will not be included though, so that is something you'll have to purchase separately. And apart from the audio jack at the back of the projector, you can pair a Bluetooth speaker or a pair of headphones too. This isn't something every projector has, so that's good that Wanbo included this. And speaking of connectivity, you've also got an HDMI and a USB port at the back of the projector. Now overall, the Wanbo X5 Pro is slightly brighter than, for example, the Nebula Mars 3 Air. Makes sense because the Wanbo is 1100 ANSI lumen, whereas the Nebula was only 400. So you do kind of see the difference, but the biggest test is always, can you use this projector during the daytime? Now, I wouldn't say you can with the Wanbo X5 Pro. Even though it gets reasonably bright, I would say that this is kind of usable on an overcast day. Otherwise, you're definitely going to be closing your curtains and trying to make the room as bright as possible. Now, before we go to the things that I didn't like about the projector, a little bit of context. So I do not have a TV in my living room, and I don't think I'll ever get one. A projector, I think, is great for my lifestyle because the massive screen size of these projectors, so this Wanbo X5 Pro can go up to as big as 140 inches. Now, this is way bigger than any of the big TVs out there, right? So even a 75-inch TV is no match. So when I go over to someone else's place and watch something on their TV, I'm usually quite underwhelmed. Obviously, the color science and the deeper blacks and all of that is much better on TVs and is much brighter as well. But the thing is, I don't watch that much TV anyway. And when I do, it's during the evening for an hour or so. So for my setup, this makes a lot of sense because most projectors aren't super bright and they will be difficult to watch unless you're in a reasonably dark room. And that's no different with the Wanbo X5 Pro. Now, having said that, what didn't I like about the Wanbo X5 Pro? They've included a very short cable, and I noticed that immediately when I started setting up, I needed an extension cable to be able to plug this thing in. There's also no battery life built into this projector. Even though it's a pretty chunky and heavy projector, there's no battery, so you have to stay connected by cable. Unlike the Nebula Mars 3 Air, for example, which did have a battery in it. Another thing that I didn't quite like was the fact that it got very hot behind the projector. So it emits a lot of heat, which is probably going to be great in the winter. But if you're in the summer, you're probably going to avoid the spot behind the projector. And there's this little kickstand that you can open up to be able to tilt the projector up and angle it better. Now, it didn't tilt it as much as I'd like to. So I ended up putting a book under the projector. So that's something you're going to have to do unless you have it on a stand or you've mounted it on the ceiling. Now, Wanbo does sell a desktop stand separately, which will give you a lot more range in being able to adjust the angle. They do throw it in for free for early orders though. Another slight downside was the included remote. The remote itself was fine. What I didn't like was that it was not backlit. Not at all. Some remotes, they give you at least backlit buttons on some of the buttons. Here, there's none of that. So if, your room is already dark to get the best experience out of this projector, and you're kind of like, trying to figure out what the buttons are, yeah, not the best experience. And then there's the audio. Of course, these have built-in speakers, but the audio isn't the best. And using a Bluetooth speaker or a speaker system is going to be far better. And that's probably what I'd advise you to do, unless, you're like me and you don't watch all too much TV and you're okay with a quick fix, then it's fine. But if you want to have a good experience, definitely invest in a good speaker setup. What I also noticed was that the auto keystone and the obstacle avoidance wasn't always first time right. So you had to redo it a few times. And another nitpick related to that is that there's no auto keystone button on the remote. So you have to click a few times further into the settings to be able to re-engage or recalibrate the keystone. And you can do that using the projector settings button that's on the remote, but it is a few more clicks compared to a quick button that'll auto adjust and auto keystone itself immediately. So at $309, guys, it's a far better price than the Mozart One Pro was, for example. That one started off at like $500, which was way too high. And you're getting a lot for this price as well. So if you're looking for a reasonably bright and snappy projector, then this is it. But if you're looking for a more portable one, then check out our recent video that we did on the Nebula Capsule 3 here, end of life.